Hey, Brian Von VA here. I got a question. DMs of Reddit, what have you banned or restricted and felt completely justified in doing so? I'm not a DM, but our DM at the beginning of our current campaign banned the following: playing a Warforged, the Artificer class, any form of teleportation magic, all firearms beside the Thunderstone pistol, Boots of Haste. Some things weren't banned, but also made extremely limited, such as the Lucky Feat, only one player was allowed to have it, Bags of Holding, only one could be found. Someone responded to this to ask, okay, sounds like this is meant to be for a gritty survival magic item lacking campaign, and the OP actually responded. Well, it didn't start that way, but it's fairly gritty now. We actually just had the biggest plot reveal of the entire campaign. I have never been more shook in all my time playing, and our group's been together for almost 8 years. Now, for a bit of background, our campaign takes place in a homebrew world, a series of continents surrounded a central area, and this sea and its continents are surrounded by an endless, treacherous ocean. The OP actually included a map of Albion. Session 1. We are on a ship that gets sunk in the Central Sea and awake in underground ruins. We manage to get out by interacting with what we will later come to know as a teleportation circle. We are teleported to a matching circle on the western continent of Aldewand. We go through various quests, adventures, and toils across 2 years of playtime. These 2 years exclusively take place in the area immediately surrounding Alda Academy. And at the very tail end, we travel to the Basharant Kingdom in the northwest. This is all relevant, I promise. So shit goes to hell while in Basharant, and in our escape we encounter a familiar-looking circle. Well, our magic user at the time dumps arcane energy into this teleportation circle, and after an explosion to end all explosions, we awake in a ruined city. Ruined architecture that is quite alien to us. This was a medieval fantasy campaign, and this architecture is that of real-life semi-modern construction. Long story short, we find a hidden path that leads to an entire city hidden among the mountains. Nobody there has ever heard of Albion, Alda Academy, the Basharant Kingdom, the Holy Millis Kingdom, or any other location or event we name off that we are familiar with. In these lands, everything has been annihilated by the Decimators, Warforged that ceaselessly expand and destroy anything in their path, even the gods themselves. This city was the last bastion of life in existence. We at first assume that we are in a different dimension or something of that nature, but we later learn that these Decimators came over the sea from the west. We theorize that this could mean we are on a continent that is extremely far to the east from our own lands, because expeditions to the east in our homelands never returned. All other directions, people sail off and return finding nothing. But if they traveled east, they were gone. We figured that between our homelands and these new lands was a continent. We learned that the Decimators came from an empire that ruled all the lands, the Evandrarian Empire. Well, after another 3 years of playtime, of fighting back and scraping together little information on what we can do to get home, we acquire an airship of Decimator make. We traveled west and did indeed come to find another continent, devoid of all life and crawling with Decimators. We came here looking for a sword, which paired with a dagger that we believed held some greater answers. After 6 months of careful travel, we come across the remnants of a battle hundreds of years old. We find the remains of a soldier bearing the crest of the Basharant Kingdom, which should be impossible. Our lands are many months' worth of travel further to the east. And we cast Speak with the Dead. Long story short, after many rounds of using this spell over weeks and months, along with a few other minor clues, a few landmarks that feel oddly familiar, we get the big reveal. This isn't some other continent. This is our homeland. We landed on the continent of Aldewand. But this should be impossible. We've only been gone from our homelands for 2 years at best. The Decimators started annihilating things on the other continent over 300 years prior, and we've been entrenched on this continent for at least 350 years. We learned that from files within Decimator Outposts themselves. Then, the puzzle pieces align. It clicks! When we teleported and the pad exploded, we not only traveled across a distance, we traveled over 400 years forward in time. Us, as players, well, we went ballistic! We poured over our notes and all the information we had to verify this, and it lines up. We used a few other methods to verify that I won't get into since this is already a long-ass comment, but we confirmed it. Those of us who started this campaign and were the ones who had been teleported had an aura of magic far, far older than those who were playing characters that were from these lands to begin with. We never, ever, as players or even characters, ever considered that we'd just time traveled. Now, I'm sorry for the long comment, but there was a lot of background information that had to be included to show why this reveal was so significant. TLDR. We not only teleported away, we teleported 400 plus years forwards in time. My current every other week campaign is set in a gritty, semi-historical, human-centric world. The other players' handbook species are options, but they are feared and treated as abominations by most NPC humans. While there is a lot of fantasy woven in, I made this choice to establish the setting and tone of the game. For classes, we are using the Player's Handbook, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, select classes from Xanathar's and Tasha's Ranger. We are using spells from the first two. As a hobby, and as I run a roleplay heavy homebrew game, that's really all my brain can handle. Multi-classing is an option, but must occur via roleplay. All of the magic items are homebrew, rare, and extremely powerful. This was done to make magic feel special and more, well, magical. Our campaign is in its 7th year. Uncommon items like Broom of Flying, Winged Boots, or others that just have no right being this damn cheap. My DM has only allowed humans, tieflings, and changelings in our campaign, but that was because of the setting the campaign took place in. It's steampunk, where magic and magical races have been hunted down by humans. Elves and dwarves are thought to be extinct, but tieflings keep turning up randomly in the population, and changelings can blend in anywhere. I have been known to ban Kender, or replace them with slightly modified halfling rules when running Dragonlance games. Their "every member of our race is an innocent hyperactive ADHD-addled kleptomaniac on amphetamines" design can really destroy a game. I often feel like Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman intended those traits to be unique to Tass, who is a fun character, but it got out of hand. Regardless, I've seen Kender characters tear a table apart. Unless a player can prove to me beyond all my doubt that they can play one really well, usually they're banned at my table. I never ban anything, but I have a house rule on summons. I always say their turn is immediately after the character who summoned them, regardless of rules as written. It's just easier to manage when a party of 5 all decide to summon stuff. Not a DM myself, but my DM has a rule regarding spells that summon a lot of minions, conjure animals, animate objects, the whole lot like that. That basically works like this. Either we treat one attack roll as all of their rolls combined, high risk, high reward, or they're banned to avoid making combat lag, which makes sense. I do, with no regrets, ban the Deck of Many Things. I don't explicitly ban them, but when people apply to my games wanting to play kobolds or goblins, I usually vet them harder than I do other players. More often than not, these players weirdly sexualize their characters, and I'm tired of Shota kobolds and short-stack goblins. They'll try and pretend it's not a fetish, but buddy, you need to get better at deception if you're going to try and pass that off. Oh God, I mean, let me tell you this. I've seen people do that a lot with the more reptilian style of a character, and yeah, I don't get it either. Stop, just stop. I'm banning plasmoids going forward. Last campaign had a player essentially replace all rogue utility and most roleplay scenarios and traps with 0 effort. Plus, the race has no lore or info beyond the gameplay stats, which caused a lot of friction at my table. And no Hado Z because I hate monkeys. 5th edition Spelljammer, by the way. We have never explicitly banned anything at our table, except we have soft banned the lucky feat because it's so good that we would all take it if we could, and it also detracts from the halfling racial ability. The reason we say it's soft banned and not hard banned is if someone new joined us and it was their first time playing D&D, of course we would let them take that feat if they wanted it. That's pretty nice of you. In my current campaign, I suggested a player switch from Aarakocra because I didn't want to deal with flight, to which they agreed. So not a hard ban, just a please reconsider. Dragonborn, on the other hand, is flat banned though, for story reasons. Oh, I haven't banned them, but the fact there's no full elves at my table means I got to make elves a rare race in my setting, for that secret reason that they all ascended to the Astral Sea 1,000 years ago to do Star Wars. If it doesn't fit in the setting, or doesn't fit tonally in my campaign, I don't allow it, unless the player can give a compelling reason and help me actually make the character feel like it belongs there. Just playing an ancestry for the hell of it doesn't cut it for me. Needs to be compelling. My group used to ban silvery barbs all across all our campaigns because it was just a crit shutdown at first level. We've since dropped the ban because we like feeling powerful. I have altered the bag of holding to not accept organic material. They were using it as a portable prison and a get out of trouble free card. I drew the line when they started a frickin' encounter inside the bag. How, you might wonder? Well, one of the prisoners broke free from the cuffs. At that point, I would just be like, if you want to stay alive, you better be nice and put those cuffs back on or I'm going to dip this thing in lava or fire. Peace and Twilight Clerics are banned at my table. One negates chip damage, and the other just blows everything else out of the water. They aren't fun for me to DM for. I'm not a professional game designer. My only house rule is that you don't break the game. There's a lot of exploits and ways to min-max that ruins the fun. What's the point of playing in a party if one player ends the encounter in one turn every single fight? I did talk to this player and explained how D&D is a collaborative team game. Every player should have a chance to contribute and shine. Otherwise, it's just everyone watching one player have fun. Some races, mostly due to world building and magic resistance. Flying races get their flight speed at level 5. Some subclasses get 1 or 2 changes and are only allowed that way, like a semi-ban. Balance is important, you know. Looking at you, Twilight Cleric. As I give out magic items, none are banned, but I do choose carefully. I warn against flying races. Oh, I don't outright ban them. People go in thinking they're overpowered, but then they realize they're, well, really quite boring. Offering little more than a fly speed in flight really isn't that powerful. I've banned races that aren't setting appropriate as well. I'm currently preparing a campaign set in the semi-real world of the 1800s Europe. Not a one-to-one of real history for plot and magic reasons, of course, but it's pretty close. The module is set up for PHB races and classes, plus some additions. So I'll try to restrict extra source books to keep the integrity of the setting. No time-traveling Terminator Warforged, for example. But I'll allow players to attempt to persuade me if they think something will be a good fit. Now that is an expert DM right there. Go ahead and set the boundaries and then let your players convince you that they can cross them legitimately with a good reason. Hey everybody, Brian Von VH is checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, leave a comment down below letting us know what you've banned, restricted, or have seen banned or restricted at a table before. All the love. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.